name is Paul, and you are lucky enough to be here for the October 2014 PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting. Try to say that in one breath, from Attorney Computer Systems. Today we are talking about the Tabs3 PracticeMaster Sync, which you probably don't care about unless it goes out of sync, which it very rarely does. And Mary Jo is going to explain what that means and how to get out of that sort of a situation. We are also going to talk about convert to fee settings, which allow you to define how attorneys and paralegals and anybody that's taking time and converting things from PracticeMaster into time lets you define the defaults for that, so that when that happens, when those attorneys and paralegals convert something to a fee, it's very easy for them because it defaults to the right things. We like to make things easy for the attorneys and the paralegals. This is one way we're going to do it. Now, before we get into that, I want to go into just a little bit of housekeeping. This is the Windows version of the GoToWebinar control panel. If you are seeing this on your screen, it is because you have not pressed this button that looks like an arrow pointing toward the right. Because once you press that button that looks like an arrow pointing toward the right, this big screen will slide out of the way. This big box will slide right off the side of your screen. When you do that, this button will turn into an arrow pointing to the left. And clicking it again will cause this big screen to slide back onto your screen, this big box to slide back onto your screen. Why would you want to do that? Well, of course, anyone who's been here before knows that that's what you do if you're shy and you have a question. Because if you're shy and you have a question, you can go type it here. Remember to hit the send button. And Leanne, our humble and excited moderator, will jump in at just the right time, interrupt Mary Jo or myself, ask your question on your behalf. And remember that Mary Jo, especially, not me, I never do this, may get off on the wrong track in answering your question. She may get sidetracked. And so if we are answering the wrong question, or we're headed down the wrong path, or we're not going the direction you want, feel free, don't come in here and say anything about it. Don't rebuke that, Mary Jo. Feel free to continue typing questions here, continue remembering to hit send, and Leanne will continue to interrupt us at just the right moment to answer your questions and to make sure we're on the right track. If you're not feeling shy, you can press this button here. It looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upward in front of it. That means raise your hand. And Leanne will once again recognize that you have a question. She will once again interrupt Mary Jo or myself at just the right time. And once again, you'll be able to ask your question, but this way you'll be able to ask it live because Leanne will unmute your microphone. That channel of communication will remain open until we're done answering your question. So again, if Mary Jo starts to answer the wrong question, or I suppose I could do that too, or you have follow-up questions, whatever the case may be, continue to ask those questions and make sure that we stay on track and answer your question. So, without further ado, I'm going to press, well, this button. I don't know what buttons I'm pressing. Gosh, maybe if I just press a whole bunch of buttons randomly, this will go away. Maybe not. Maybe it's not going to ever go away. Mary Jo, did I give keyboard and mouse away from me? There we go. She can do it. She knows what she's doing.
I'm just going to come over easy.
Without any further ado, here's Mary Jo, who will answer all your questions.
I wish you could see his face when all I have to do is put my finger on the unmute button. He thinks I'm going to do something to him. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm just ready to do my side of this. But anyway, all right, Tabs3 and PracticeMaster Sync. And I just want to make it clear, this is not to be confused with Outlook and PracticeMaster Sync. If you get the little message that your sync has been suspended or something, that is having to do with something totally different. That is Outlook Sync and whether or not your calendar is syncing with your Outlook calendar. What I'm going to talk about is the Tabs3 PracticeMaster Sync, which is available to make sure that everything you put in PracticeMaster goes into Tabs, and everything you put into Tabs goes into PracticeMaster. And this actually also includes trust. So if you enter a client in any of the three programs, it will automatically, instantly be in all the other two. If you put in a fee entry in Tabs, it should automatically be in PracticeMaster. If you put one in PracticeMaster, it should automatically be in Tabs. Usually, when you first get your program and you set it up, we sync Tabs in PracticeMaster, and it is done, and it usually stays synced unless there's some weird data error glitch that might come up, and in that case you would see an error on your data file integrity check in either Tabs or in PracticeMaster that says that your Tabs and PracticeMaster are no longer in sync. It's an error 500. Now the other reason you might see an error 500 is because you never synced it because you never used PracticeMaster, or you installed the free basic version of PracticeMaster later on and you didn't sync it because you always use Tabs. So that might be an instance where you would see that error 500. If you do a data file integrity check in PracticeMaster or in Tabs and you see that error 500, it's very easy to fix that. It's just an integration between the two programs, and there is a sync PracticeMaster Tabs and Trust here in PracticeMaster. If I were in Tabs, I would also see it under integration, and that is my synchronized Tabs in PracticeMaster here. So there are two buttons. You can do it in either program. Since we're talking about PracticeMaster, I'm going to stay over there, and you would just go in and click on your sync PracticeMaster and Tabs. And here I would make the backup. I always recommend you make your backup, but for sample purposes in today's webinar, I am not going to. But when you get in here, you have a couple of different options here. The first one is to perform the sync and prompt you for any resolution. So if it finds some conflict out there, something is in PracticeMaster but it's not in Tabs, or vice versa, it will pop up a message and tell you, hey, this is different, this field is different. Which program do you want to use to resolve that conflict? Do you want to use the Tabs program or do you want to use PracticeMaster? So you can have it prompt you every time it finds a conflict. The other way to run this is if you want to just say, you know what, I've always used PracticeMaster, I just got the copy of, I always use Tabs and I just got the PracticeMaster copy, and I want to just use Tabs because Tabs I know has all of the correct information, and I want it to just go ahead and perform the sync and use Tabs to resolve any conflicts because I know that's the correct data. I also could do it the other way, and if I had PracticeMaster and I added Tabs later, I could say, nope, PracticeMaster has all of the correct data. I'm going to use that to resolve my conflicts, and don't even ask me because I already know that PracticeMaster has all the right data. So that's your two options there. So either you're going to let it just prompt you every time so you can spot check every single thing, or you can choose one or the other of the programs. Now, one other thing that people don't know about in the sync feature here is you can actually bring over the Tabs3 archive fee records and cost records from Tabs and have them load in PracticeMaster. Most of the time out of the box, the program is just set up to only show you the WIP time in PracticeMaster. As soon as it's billed, that time disappears and you're done. You don't see any other time, so it's a good way to have attorneys be able to look at that time and know if it's still in here, I can still edit it, but as soon as it goes away, I don't have access anymore. But I do have a couple of firms who do want to see that archived fee and cost records in PracticeMaster. They want to be able to search everything. They don't want just the WIP. And this is the way that you can get that in. You can check this box and you can sync. You can do this anytime and it will bring those over if you don't have it turned on already. Once it's turned on and it's syncing, it's going to continue to sync the archived over, but you have to initially bring them over. And I'm going to say most of our clients do not bring it over, but it is a personal firm choice, so that is an option. Then I'm just going to tell it to perform the sync and prompt me if there's any conflicts and start the sync. It's pretty quick, depending on the size of your data. This is sample data, so we have very little information in here. You might have a really large database, and this might take a little while, and it is something that you need to have everybody out of PracticeMaster and Tabs to be able to run. So it's exclusive. So this is something that if you don't know how large your database is, it might be something you want to do either really early in the morning or at the end of the day so that you're not disrupting the workflow of the day. So in my case, I had no modifications needed, so I'm just going to say OK, and it just takes me back out again. So again, it's usually set up initially when we first get the program. If you want to find out whether or not your Tabs and PracticeMaster is synced, all you have to do is run a data file integrity check in either PracticeMaster or Tabs, and it will show error 500, and that's going to say Tabs and PracticeMaster are not synced. If you get that, you can go in here and run it. If you don't, you're already synced, and it should stay that way. That's all I have on that. Paul?
Well, you caught me off guard there. I had to unmute my microphone. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay. Like I say, it's something that doesn't come up, but if it does, it's very easy to fix and something that really only very occasionally you might run into. I'm going to talk about something that hopefully you run into more than occasionally, which is converting fees from PracticeMaster. A little bit of backstory here. If we are in PracticeMaster in just about anything, let's say we're in a client screen and we've just taken a note, or we've just journaled an email, or we've just done a phone journal, there is, under QuickClicks, or if you right-click, also under Action, there is the ability to convert to fee. And what that means is that just about anything that you do in PracticeMaster can turn into a fee in Tabs. So events from your calendar, tasks get marked completed, phone notes that you take, regular notes that you take, emails that you journal, these are all things that could be converted to fees. There's even a timer in PracticeMaster that you can use to time your tasks, and actually some people use it without even using the timer. They just use it as kind of a place to store their timesheet until they convert them to fees and tabs. And so what happens, just so you get a glimpse of this, if I right-click on this entry and say I want to convert to fee, and I don't have to right-click, I can also use the convert to fee over here on the QuickClicks. What it does is it pops up a fee entry in PracticeMaster with these defaults filled in the way they've been set. And that's actually what we're going to talk about, is those convert to fee settings to make these defaults default to what you want. Now, you might have your convert to fee settings for a phone note to say telephone conference with blank. Or you might have it set to pull in the description of the phone note. You might have your hours worked or hours to bill default to 0.2 hours or 0.4 hours or 0.25 hours. You might have it default to the same from your login. It's always going to make time for you. If you're a legal assistant, you might have it always enter the time as if it was the primary attorney on the case, and you can change that. We'll look at that. But I just want you to see that simply by highlighting one of these journal entries or one of these emails that you've journaled and hitting convert to fee, it's going to go and do a time entry to turn that into billable time within the billing system. And as long as you've got your convert to fee settings right, which is what we're going to look at in just a second, then that's very easy to take that time and convert it. I do also want to point out that there's this timer that Mary Jo mentioned. I use this all the time. And the timer is just a way to be able to time things that are going on and still have a record going that shows you what it is that you're doing. Maybe it's very, very brief. Quickly, you answer the phone, you put in call from Joe, and you start to talk and keep your timer running. And then later you can turn this into time that's a little more formal. Telephone conference from Joseph Smith regarding blank, blank, blank. So that's the timer. And there's another thing that everything I've talked about so far has been how to convert to fee one-off. In other words, here's a time entry that I want to convert to or here's a journal note or a timer entry that I want to convert to a fee. No, I don't. Sorry, I'm trying to get out of here. Or here's an email that I want to convert to a fee, or here's a calendar item that I want to convert to a fee, or whatever. There's also this ability to go in here to process timer records from the file menu. And what that does is it shows you everything you've done today. Right now I'm looking at my journal entries, but you could have QuickClick tabs up here that show you all of your entries. Or if you're a legal assistant, you could have a tab that shows you Bob's entries and a tab that shows you George's entries and a tab that shows you Phyllis's entries, and you could go in and turn those into time for those people. But the point is, this shows you everything that that person or that you, if you're the actual timekeeper, have done since the last time you did this. And you can either convert them to fee, right, by clicking this button here, or you can mark as hidden, which means I'm not going to bill for this, don't keep showing it to me. And so the point here is that you let these things accumulate, and at the end of the day, you go convert all the things you did that day to fees, and you're capturing a lot more time by doing it that way. Okay? Now, how do you set the defaults so that these convert to fee the way you want them to? That's really what we're here to talk about. And so we're going to go into Maintenance, Preferences, Convert to Fee Settings. I'll repeat that. Maintenance on the menu, Preferences, convert to fee settings. Bam. Now, you'll notice that there is a tab for each of the different things that you can convert to fee. Why? Because you might have a different default time to bill for an email than you do for a phone note. And you might, for preparation of a document, you might have a different description that you want to use than you would for an email. So let's start with email. What do you want to use for transaction code? Maybe it's communicate with, maybe it's review and respond to, whatever you want. Whatever code you're going to use, you put that here. If you're in a task-based billing situation, you'll know what L100 and A103 mean. If you don't know what those mean, you're probably not using them. But you can also specify the default task and activity codes. Who do you want to be the default timekeeper? Well, if you're an attorney or a paralegal and you're entering your own time, you're going to set this to always use, and you're going to set it to you. If you're going to be doing this for other people, you will either use timekeeper used for last fee, and then the first time you're doing one for Bob, you'll set it to Bob, and then you'll continue to do Bob's time, and then when you get over to Mary's time, you'll switch it to Mary. Or if it works, you can use the client's primary timekeeper, because a lot of times that's the person who's entering the time or for whom the time is being recorded. What's your default description? Well, if it's, let's say this is a journal record, this is the field that is the comments field. So if you set up convert to fee settings for an email to be the comments field, what it's going to do is pull in the body of the email. Probably not what you want, but for a timer record, that may be exactly what you want the default to be. So you may go over the timer record and set the default description to the comments field, but here on the email, you might say a certain transaction code description or a customized description. And here you can put things like variables over here. So here in my example, I've got communicate with, and then whoever the to from address is, via email regarding subject, the subject from the email. Now, I don't like that. That comes out looking kind of jilted, if you will. Communicate with paul.perdue@attorneycomputersystems.com via email regarding, hey, how's that preparation of that amendment going? that to me doesn't usually work very well. So I tend to see clients setting up things like email communication with blank regarding blank. And so then when they come in and they actually create an email time entry, they'll fill in this and they'll fill in that, and the rest of it will be their form. So let's leave that way, and I'll show you how that works in a second. What's your default for time? Maybe it's 0.2 hours, maybe it's 0.1. What if you've got multiple records? Maybe you're taking 5 emails that you sent back and forth and combining them into one fee entry. Well, maybe for that you want to default to 0.1 hour per each and apply to each email before combining. Okay, so that would, in my example, come up with 0.5 for that 5 email exchange that was being combined into one record. When combining different types of records, which defaults do you want to use? Well, I don't see that happening very often, but it can in the process timer record screen. So you decide, are we going to use the timer default or are we going to use the email defaults? What's going to happen for this description? What's going to happen for these hours? And then I don't think I've ever seen anyone check this. What this says, when possible, convert email messages without displaying the fee window. That means when I tell you to convert, go ahead and convert. Don't show me the fee. Don't let me make any overrides. Don't let me make any changes. I don't think that's plausible. I think you want to, when you're converting the fee, you want to see it. So how does that work? What does that look like? Let's go into my Outlook and look at my deleted items and pull up this one about oddness. I don't even know what that means. And I'm going to click on PracticeMaster, and I'm going to turn it into a fee. That's what we're doing here. We're converting this email to a fee. And I'm going to put it on Michael Larson's bill. Remember, I put in the description was email communication with Michael regarding dispute. Is that the right hours? Is it today? Actually, it uses the date of the email. It's me because I said that I was Michael Jensen, the timekeeper, and it's automatically going to the client that I selected, and it's defining, defaulting to the category for that client, defaulting to billable. Everything except what I've added to the description defaulted the way I wanted it, and that's exactly what we want when we set up our convert to fee settings. We want to get into a situation where the timekeeper is the right person, where the date is defaulting the way we want, where the hours are coming up the way we want, and where the description is coming up the way we want. So we can merely augment the description slightly, hit save, and bam, we've just built this guy 0.2 hours for an email. One thing I'd like to point out that doesn't have to do with the convert to fee settings is if you've got your Outlook set up right, when you can create a fee from an email, there should be an F column and there should be an F next to that particular Outlook email to indicate you've billed for it. And I think that's very cool too, because usually what's happening is you're going through your sent items, and before you do whatever else you do with your sent items, you want to make sure you bill them all. And being able to see right out here that you billed these with an F in that column, I think that's very, very cool. Okay, so that is convert to fee settings. Remember, it's in PracticeMaster. It's under Maintenance, Preferences, Convert to Fee, and don't forget, you've got to set them for each individual type of record that you're going to be making fees out of, because just setting that first tab is only setting up the calendar items, and these are all the different things you can turn into fees. And that is convert to fee settings. Now, since we're done with that, let's talk about what we're talking about next week. PracticeMaster's or next month, I should say. PracticeMaster's virtual user group meeting for November. It's going to be early this time because, no, it's not. It's the same week as Thanksgiving. I'm getting way ahead of myself to December when we have it early because of Christmas. It's the same week as Thanksgiving. It's the last Monday of the month. And we are going to be talking about the form designer. Mary Jo's going to show us how to move fields around on the screen, maybe add fields that aren't already there that we've added to our data structure, or maybe take fields out that we don't want there. She's going to show us how to use the form designer to do those things. And I'm going to talk about the calendar email notification setting that allows an email to be generated to the person for whom you've added a calendar item or changed a calendar item to let them know via email that you've added or made this change to this calendar item. We have several firms that use this, and it really keeps the attorneys notified of anything that gets put on their calendar without them having to go look for it. And just in case you're interested, the Tabs3 virtual user group meeting next month will be we'll be starting our report series. I'm going to talk about all the different ways to get help on finding the right report, how to use the sample reports, how to use a certain screen that you can get on the web that lets you specify what you want out of a report, and then it tells you which reports meet those criteria. And Mary Jo's going to actually kick off the series on reporting with the first report that we go into in detail, the cash receipts report.
Paul?
And, yes, Leanne?
Before you wrap up, I do have a question, so if you want to
finish. Is this Leanne, the humble moderator?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm humbly interrupting you
to
let you know there's a question.
Okay, what have we got?
Okay, there are actually two questions, but I believe they're about the same. It was having to do when you were converting to fee, and was there a rate associated with these fees? How do you set the rates? Does the hourly rate
very
go
good
from
question.
Tabs?
Because you're looking here and you're saying, well, where's the rate? How do we know what rate? Well, that's Tabs. Tabs, and this is a PracticeMaster thing, Tabs knows exactly what rate to charge when that timekeeper does work for that particular matter, for that particular client, based on how we've set Tabs up. And that's one thing that Tabs is really, really good at. Everything else it's terrible at. No, I'm just kidding. Tabs is very good at letting us set the exact rate for that matter, for that timekeeper, for that particular client. And it's kind of confusing to people when you go and save something. I'm going to go, well, I'm just going to, what am I going to do, Mary Jo? I'm going to go into the client file, and I'm just going to enter a fee from scratch. It's confusing to people because in PracticeMaster you see this rate 0, and that's confusing. Here's why that happens, and here's why you don't care that it does that. If we go ahead and make a fee entry for 0.1 hours, and we say test, and we save it, when we come back, the appropriate rate is going to be there. And you can also see it back here on this screen that this rate is here. Why wasn't it there to begin with? Because PracticeMaster doesn't talk to Tabs until you save the entry. And it isn't until it talks to Tabs that Tabs is able to look it up and say, oh, that particular timekeeper working on that matter for that client gets $250 an hour, and puts it in the entry at that point. That means that after you've saved it, you'll be able to see what the appropriate rate was. But I say, don't worry about it. As long as your Tabs is set up right, and this is something that we really want to get people doing right, and as long as they've got the Tabs set up right, and the rate set up right, then the timekeeper doesn't really have to worry about it.
Now, if they don't have Tabs and they're just doing PracticeMaster only, they're going to be setting the rate up underneath the attorney on the setup screen for the timekeeper.
That's right.
And then that will show. So if you don't have Tabs, you don't have the ability to do a rate for each matter like you do with Tabs, but you do have an attorney rate, and that can all be overridden by matter as you put time in. So it will populate in that.
And if you don't have Tabs, then you probably don't have different rates for each matter because you're probably not billing through the billing system because you're a contingent firm, and you want to track this time more for reporting purposes. Did we end up with any follow-up questions after that, Leanne?
No more questions. Nope.
Okay. I'm going to get in trouble for that one later. So here we are. I was starting to say I would be remiss not to show you that if you go to attorneycomputersystems.com and scroll down once you get there, you will see all of our virtual user group meetings listed here, Tabs, PracticeMaster, World Docs. And if you click on one, for instance, if you click on PracticeMaster, you will see the registration link. Right now you're seeing the registration link for the very webinar that you are watching. And if you scroll down below that, you will see recorded versions of every webinar we've ever recorded. And we've been recording these for, gosh, 2, 3, I think it's actually 3.5 or 4 years. So there's a lot of content here. Most of it's still very relevant and all there for you to watch. So don't forget, you can go here and just click this link or click this link here, this picture, and you will be taken to that video. We also have our Coffee Pot webinars, which we give once a month on Fridays. We have our eBites video series. That's Mary Jo's little deal, special deal, where she gives you little nuggets of information, very compact. They're usually about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes long. We record 3 of those a month. And there's also the Paul and Mary Jo show, which we put 1 of those out a month. That's a longer a TV show sort of format or talk show sort of format where we kind of hash through a concept and then go to the computer and show you how it works. So don't hesitate to take advantage of all this neat content that's there on the web at attorneycomputersystems.com. Everybody have a good rest of the day, rest of the month, and we will see you in Thanksgiving week as everybody's getting ready to eat Thanksgiving dinner. Bye, everybody.